Thomas, it is good to see you again. They heard the big ovation there just because we can hear you. You should have heard them when you won the game. Got the first goal. We just watched this incredible film. We got a room full of people here that are now blown away by the whole experience and everything that you did and kind of the life journey that you took right in front of our eyes with some of the experiences that you've had and some of the challenges that you've had and what you were able to give to that country and that team. I would like to thank you for the time to be here, and I want to get questions from the audience because it's really about the audience tonight, but thank you so much for doing what you did, for being the one candidate who signed up to take that job when no one else would, although the waterfront property was pretty sweet, so it couldn't have been that bad. But like I said, I think on behalf of all of us, we're so pleased that you did what you did, and who knew these? I mean, maybe my first question, and then I'll turn it over to my friends here. Well, you know, who had the thought, these two gentlemen, to create the film? Who had even for it to come out like this was incredible, because it could have easily been the other way around, and really nobody wants to see a film of what it could have been like. So, tell us about the filmmakers a little bit.
Well, those are three young Englishmen that actually were there about 3 months before I even appeared, and then they didn't even know that I was going to be eventually part of this this documentary, and they were really by the mere fact that the world's worst team in the world continues to play under such great adversity, you know, and they wanted to find out what the true spirit was of football in this country, and really rekindle their love, which I did as well, with their childhood memories of why they played the game and what drives people, you know, against all odds to continue to, as I said again, play without a win in 17 years. So I think that's really the backdrop, the 31-0 loss against Australia, and then subsequently seeing why this nation continues to play, be it the worst at that particular time in the world. So that intrigued me as well. Very interesting to see that, you know, how people still, amateurs for that matter, continue to play and play it because they have great passion and love for the game.
Great. If you guys got a question, because I'll keep. Yes, in the back. I saw your hand first. Can you stand up so I can see you? Okay, Thomas. I think she's challenging your coaching. Did you expect to win? Did you ever think that you would come out with a win, or were you just blowing smoke out there? We know you're a smoker.
Well, we couldn't do any worse. That's for sure. You know, when I looked at this team, and I did some research on the Confederation, Oceania, I knew that the margins between the lower-ranked teams like Tonga, Cook Islands, Solomon Islands, Samoa weren't as big as some of the results had shown. So I felt, although I had only 3 weeks to prepare this team, I felt that I could make, in a short amount of time, some real differences for this team. And we got a little better technically, Chris. We got a lot better tactically in terms of our organization. Our fitness level became a little bit better. But where we made tremendous strides was just be able to erase the past, live in the now, and look at the future and turn a losing mentality into a winner's mentality. And that was probably the biggest feat of this team. They believed eventually that I had the knowledge and as the leader they would follow, that good things would happen.
Very good. Someone else? In the front there? The question would be, with the spirit and the kind of the natural kindness of the people of American Samoa, was it, you know, to convert that into sort of a, when you have to be rough and tough on the field and you got to fight and you can't relent and you may tackle hard, get a yellow, that sort of thing. Was that a hard conversion for them?
If you see early on in the movie, I'd done some research and I felt that this needed some discipline, a true leader, and that's why I'm a little tough initially to really instill a level of discipline that would allow me to, gain the respect of the players outside of the fact that I really immersed myself in the culture and embraced them as well. I felt that this team needed a tougher edge. This team is accustomed to losing, and losing was the norm. And I needed to break that habit. And as you can see early in the movie, I'm a little bit in your face. I'm tough, but I also say one particular time, American Samoan warriors show me how to fight, and I show you how to win. And I think that chemistry, that synergy eventually took place, which was nice to see because, yes, they are somewhat laissez-faire. They're somewhat relaxed. They're very spiritual and religious. But I felt that this team needed a certain mental edge that would allow them to get over the top, so to speak, and turn, as I said again, a losing mentality into a winner's mentality, which eventually happened.
Question out there? Red shirt? I think the question is what were you able to leave behind as far as conditioning and drills and things that they can take with them and continue to build on what they already accomplished?
Yeah, it's not easy because this is an island that, as you can see early in the movie, their first competition in the Pacific Games, which is the equivalent to the Pan American Games in the Western Hemisphere, was after they played their last game 4 years ago. The fun isn't great. They don't play a lot of international games or friendly games because travel is extensive in that part of the world, in Polynesia or the South Pacific. So they are reliant on playing and training themselves with not great quality coaches. So I left a playbook there. I taught some of the coaches how to run sessions, put a program together, both short and long term, that made some sense for them, where they can continue, as I said again, to work on their fitness, continue to become better in the tactical area of the field, because we made some subtle changes to the system that they played. And I feel that over time, because of the raw talent on the island, that this team can even make bigger strides and potentially could compete for a spot in Russia in 2018. But the circumstances are still tough. It's a rugby and American football island. Although after our success, the youth market tripled, in terms of participation, which was great to see. So we left a little bit of a legacy. And now the on-island players continue to train as best as they can under the circumstances.
Another question? Thomas, a young lady in the back asked if you expected it to be as challenging as it really was.
I've done my research, obviously, but still, when I first arrived there and ran my first session, it was the lowest standard of international football I'd ever seen. So it was actually worse than I initially anticipated. Saying that, it's very coachable. There is some raw talent, and I felt that in a short amount of time I could do some interesting things with this team. But it was quite a challenge. It never deterred me of working hard. We trained twice a day. We lived in isolation, so we bonded very well both on and off the field with a lot of team building. And we, as I said again, we made some great strides because of the fact that the players were very open-minded and very coachable. So we were able to bridge a lot of gaps in a short amount of time. And I have to say, I got to give the players a lot of credit. But it was a poor standard, and we raised it from a poor standard to an average standard, which was enough to beat Tonga and tie the Cook Islands.
So what you brought back from the whole experience and what you've been able to bring back to improve your own coaching abilities and what you've done with it since you've returned?
I think what this nation taught me from a soccer aspect is that I again fell in love with the game. And I think that was very important. We get very cynical in the highest level. We're driven by fear of failure. It's all about results and money at the highest level. It's very uncommon to see a group of players that inspired, that enthused, and with such passion and love for the game that it rekindled my love for the game again. I've become a better teacher because I had to teach as best as I can. I had to teach my ass off, so to speak, with a group of players that needed a lot of help. So it made me a better coach in terms of the basics again. Brought back to my grassroots where I started. I was equipment manager, I was assistant coach, I was psychologist, I was strength and conditioning coach as well. So it was a very rewarding experience that I can use now, and which I have used by able to reach out to younger players better, but also older players, and being able to push the right buttons in order to get the success and the development that you like to see in players. So from a professional standpoint, it was great, and from a personal standpoint, it humbled me. It got me in touch a little bit with my spiritual side, which I hadn't done for quite some time. So it was just a great journey throughout, both from a personal and from a professional level, that I can use both with my life at home and with my players that I teach at this particular time.
One more question? Yeah, Chris, what can we in Tucson do to help this team?
Road trip.
The question was, what can we do in Tucson to be supportive of American Samoa? How can we help them?
Just like what you're trying to do, you know, you're trying to get yourself on the map, you try to generate interest, you got to keep believing. You know, I hope that American Samoa has become everybody's second favorite team in Tucson. I would like to thank the Loft and FC Tucson for putting this on, because that's been great, and I'm glad that people enjoyed the movie. Just follow the adventure of this island. Financial support can always help. Sponsorship. As I said again, those smaller nations don't have a lot of financial means to do certain things. So if somebody wants to come up with a few $100,000, I can go back and coach the team again. So that would be nice.
So my question is, and I want to explain it. You played it in the NASL for Fort Lauderdale Strikers, for a whole bunch of teams in the NASL. You coached in Major League Soccer. You coached for the U20s or U.S. Soccer. It's pretty well known, but maybe not by everybody, that going into this World Cup, going into the start on Monday for the United States, that a lot of the players that are on that team were identified by you in the same way that you went back and found a couple of players that helped you with the American Samoa team. You are credited for founding Aaron Johansson, Mix Discarud, a couple other players. Can you comment on that and maybe give us your thoughts on how the U.S. will do in the group of death?
Yeah, I mean, the first is obviously a crucial game. You lose your first game in any group play. Only 9% of teams have made it out of group play historically in the World Cup. So that's a key game against Ghana. Depending on the result between Germany and Portugal, the second game, if Portugal loses against Germany, the pressure is on Portugal, and hopefully by that time, when you get to Germany, you might be in a situation where Germany has already advanced, and I think four points will get you out of the group. I think the U.S. will advance in terms of the players that I identified. At one particular time, because of the game is so global right now. There's so many players that can choose to play for different countries because they hold to, in some cases, 3 passports. I thought it was important for me to put a list together of players through contacts internationally, through talking to players that went abroad, and get back with information saying, hey, listen, there's a player, my team beat Hertha Berlin with Anthony Brooks, that's part of the World Cup team as well, be it playing against Starbuck in Guadalajara, Mexico, and the head coach comes up to me and goes, do you know, by the way, that my captain has a U.S. passport, and here's Mix now going with me to the under-20 World Cup in Egypt, and now playing for the World Cup team. And there's a lot of stories that way. Even Clint Dempsey, that nobody knew about when I saw him play for Furman And if I don't go to that particular game, Clint probably will not play for the U.S. under-20 team, probably will not get drafted as at that time it was called Generation Adidas player for the New England Revolution, and might not ever been discovered, being in Cappadocia, Texas. I'm very happy that I've been able to touch some of those players and found some of those players and help them along their way to become the pros that they are and representing the country on a senior level. So that was a fun ride, enjoyable. It's always good to, as I said again, find that diamond in the rough, and also nice to see that those players now are contributing members of our senior national team, because that's the job of the under-20 coach when I was there.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I would really like everybody to give Thomas a big, hopefully you can hear this. Thank you so much for coming out, Tucson. Thanks for being fans of FC Tucson in the Loft. Let's go World Cup.